Welcome back to JavaScript Crashcourse Part 2. I'll be teaching you about DOM manipulation, functions, objects, and so much more. Now in this one we are going to learn DOM manipulation. I'll be teaching you about DOM manipulation. How you can access DOM objects using the document objects using JavaScript. Then we're going to have the functions. Then after that we're going to have the objects in JavaScript. That's the object-oriented part. Then we're going to have a simple app at the end of the lesson. We're going to have a simple login application with JavaScript. So get ready, let's get started. It's going to be fun, alright? Okay, yeah, right now. Alright, now what is DOM manipulation? DOM manipulation is when you are trying to access the document objects so that you can manipulate them. Now sorry that my voice is a bit down. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to try to create some few document objects here, the objects in HTML. And when we talk about objects here, we are talking about the document. Now this is the document, the whole of this is the document, the whole of that is the document. So when you add your paragraph, we could call that one, could give it an ID of 1. We add a paragraph with an ID of 1, and maybe add a div with a class of div2, sorry, div2. Those are two objects. So how do we access this? So a document object model is whereby we can be able to access the parents, and then we can have the child, and then the nodes. I mean, you're trying to access every part of your HTML document. So here we're going to try to access the properties. Here we can access the properties of the paragraph which has the ID of 1. We can also access the properties of the division that has a class of div2. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to access these properties and how we can manipulate them, how we can add some few things here and there, how we can add text, how we can remove text, how we can hide the stuff here and there. So just get ready. So what I want you to do, I want you to fire up your text editor. I'm using Visual Studio Code, and I'll be taking you through it part by part. So what I want you to do, just go. I hope you had written. You had written this part. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete everything, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to access the first paragraph. So how do we do this? The first thing we are going to do, we are going to access this object here. So this an object of the HTML document. So how do we access it? So how we do that, we come here, and then we're going to get it by we are using an ID here. So because we're using an ID here, we can use that one to reference the object. How we do that, we come here, and then we can say var paragraph, then we just created a variable called paragraph. Then you're going to assign the variable paragraph to this HTML paragraph. So how do we do that? We are going to say document dot get element by ID, document dot get element by ID. So the ID that we are going to use here is 1, the one that we're using here. So we are going to use 1. Then we save our work. Then what we are going to do now, because we have accessed that paragraph, we can do several things. One thing is that we can add text into it. We can even remove text, but the simple things I want us to do, we're going to do to add some text. We are going to add some CSS using JavaScript. So let us get started. So here we add some text to the paragraph. So how do we do that? We are going to say paragraph dot inner HTML equals hello, this text is from JavaScript. So we save our work, and then we go to the browser, and then refresh. Refresh. And I'm also going to open up my debug tool so that I can now, as you see, now we have this text. Okay, so I'm going to fire up my debug tools, the console, so that I can tell if I'm making mistakes or if my code is running alright. So as you can see, this text is from JavaScript. So what I want us to do, I want us now to do something else. We can append, and to append is to add text after, after what? After some already inserted text, or maybe not only text, we could even have images, we could have even video. So this to append is to put something after. Okay, to append is to put something after. Like we could put something here like hello world. So we could do this. We could come and say paragraph dot append, then here inside now we can write hello. We could this is appended text. That is appended text. So we can come and refresh. Now you see the appended text comes before, no, sorry, not before, after whatever we have in that after whatever we have in that object. So that is the appended part. So let us do another one. The other one is called prepend. Prepend, you put text, or you put whatever you're putting it there before whatever was there. Okay, so here we are going to prepend some text, so we are going to do the same. So I'm going to copy the same line and paste, and then instead of append, I'm going to say prepend. I'm going to say prepend. I'm going to say prepend. Save your work, and then let us see. Now you see, now instead of having appended here, we can have prepended text. Refresh your work. Now this prepended text, hello, this text is from JavaScript, this is appended text. So that is how we can access the objects of our HTML document. So that's not all. Several other things that we can have. Now as you can see here, I'm getting the paragraph by using the ID, because here we are using the what? We are using the ID. Something else that we can do, we can get the document object by using the class name. So what I'm going to do, I'm now going to access this the second part, which is a div, and then how I'm going to do it, I'm going to create a new variable called the division, and then I'm going to assign it to, so we are going to get it by the class name, and the class name is div2, the one that really give me some problem during typing, div2. So then we are going to put some text in there. So we are going to say division dot inner HTML equals, so now we can have some inner text, like we could say hello, this is a division with text from JS. Save your work, and then you can go and refresh. Are we having problems? So we are having problems. Let me check again. First thing we could do, division, let's see, div, all right. Now let us do something else. I don't know where the error from this one is coming from. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to we can let us try another method. We could try prepend, we could try append, we could try append. We could try append, and save your work. Let us see if that one is going to work. So now we have an error. So div.append is not a function. So what is happening here is that we cannot append to the division. Why is that? Okay, we are going to see that in a moment. So what I'm going to do here, we're going to leave it just the way it is, so that we can come back later and see what we were doing wrong. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to try and give some styles. I'm going to try and give some styles to this division, so that we can first style it, and then we can see how the working goes. So how does this happen? So the way this one works, we're just going to use common CSS styling. We're not going to use it's only that we're going to put it in what? It's only that we're going to put it in it's only that we're going to put it in a JavaScript line, okay, in a script way. So let us add let's add some CSS. So the way we're going to do this, we are first going to start with the paragraph dot styles dot style dot now we could have a background color, the background color, and then you can say it is equals to red. Now we have this, we still have this problem, so I'm gonna comment it out. Save your work. Now that is adding style using what? Using JavaScript. So let us do something else. We could also add some color to the that was background color. Let's try to add some color to the text. So paragraph dot style dot color, then we're going to give it, let's give it white. Save your work, then refresh. So you see, now that is how we are accessing the objects and then manipulating them. Now we could also do something else. Now we could also have something like paragraph dot style dot you see, now all these are the types of styles that we could have. Okay, we could have the opacity, we could have the font, we could have the font style. Like, let us try this font style. We could have the font style. I have a favorite one called monotype cursiva. Cursiva. Does that sound oh, it's not getting applied. Maybe it is not loading it from okay, it's not getting applied. We could try another one. If that one does not work, we could try Cobel. Is another one, Cobel, but that one is probably going to give me an error. So let me put it in so Cobel is still not getting applied. Let's try another one. This one should be font family. Yeah, font family. I'm giving the wrong method. Yeah, now you see it has changed. Let us try something else. Monotype cursiva. As you can see, it has changed. Then we could have something like what? Okay, we can also have some height and weight. So let us add some height and width. Sorry, paragraph dot style dot width. Then we're going to give it let us give it 100 px or pixels. Then we could have paragraph dot style dot height. We are going to give it, let's make it a square. We're going to give it 100 pixels. Save your work and then refresh your page. Now that is it. That's now we are trying to access this part, not that part, this part, and then we are adding some style. So now I want us to come back to this division of ours, and then we are going to see what we can do with it. Now what we can do with this one, instead of having a paragraph here, we could give it a what? We could give it a div. Let us say div. Right now we might not see anything. So we're having a problem. So div2 get element. by class name. So what we're going to do, we're going to get the first index. We are going to get the first index. Let us get the first index. Yeah, that is now our element. The problem is that I was not referring to the first element. So now we can have let us try and see if we can have some text. So div dot inner HTML. Now we can have text in div, text in a div, text in a div. Now let us now go back to what was happening. I wanted you to see this in how first I wanted it to take us around, so that as we go, we're going to learn a few tricks here and there. Now what is happening here, we're getting, I want you to notice, we're getting the document.get element by ID. So what we're having here is the ID. So we are using, it is one, we're using one, we are getting one element here, or one object here. So we're getting one object, that's then we assign it to this variable called paragraph, and then we're adding some text to paragraph, we are appending, and then we are prepending. But what happens when it comes to the div? What happens when it comes to the div? What is happening here is that we are not getting one object here, we are getting by class name. But I want you to notice the word elements. So it is document.get elements by class name. So when I do not reference to the first object, or to the first index of the array, we are going to have a what? We are going to have an error, and then when we go to the console, we are going to have background of undefined, because we are not referring to our first. We are not. We are not referring to any of them. We are just referring to an array. This is going to be an array. So the best thing to avoid that is access the first index of the what? The first index of your class name, because actually we could have several objects with the same class name. So what we are doing here, we are accessing the first what? The first index, and then you can manipulate just the same way as we are doing the paragraph. Then you can manipulate the what? You can manipulate the object. So that is the other one. So something else we could do here, because this one is a div, we could say div dot style dot border radius let's change the background color for a moment. It's very shouting and scary. Mine is like I like the color Daxian. I like Daxian. So that's it. And then we can increase the what? We can increase the width. Let us give it the width in percentage, so that it covers the full width of the screen. So we could give it 100%. Yeah, now that's it. It is covering the length of the screen. Now let us have something else. Now we could also reduce the weight to be something like 50. Yeah, 50 would be a great idea. 50 pixels. Refresh your work. That's it. Let us give it some padding. No, you just have, first you have to reference the what? The object that you are referring to. So div dot style dot padding. Looks like we do not have that method here. Let us try and see if it is applicable. We could give it 100% just, or 20%, 10%. Yeah, for testing purposes. Is it working? Yeah, it is working. So that is a padding. So we could give it, instead of 10%, let us give it a, so padding top, we could give it a padding top. That is, if we really have that method. Padding top, we could give it a method, a padding of 10px. Save your work, go and refresh. Yeah, you see this padding. And we could also have the same padding left. We could still have 10px. So I want you to notice, before I refresh, I want you to notice that this text is very close to the edge of our box. So Now you see it has moved. That is the padding. So what I'm going to give it a padding bottom of 0, a padding bottom of 0, padding bottom of 0, a padding bottom of 0. Oh, that one is not working. Probably it's because okay, let's leave that out for now. Let's leave that out for now. So up to that point, you can be able to access a document object, manipulate it, and add something to it. Now something else that I want us to do is you know, here we're talking about document accessing the document objects, but this is not probably what you'll be doing, because instead of having to write all these CSS in JavaScript, the best thing would be you writing them in CSS, just CSS, plain CSS. Just, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's so cool we have this, yeah, but you really do not have to use this on like 50% of your application scale. So what we're going to do here, we're going to remove this. Then we are going to have a simple form, and then we are going to access, the objects in the form. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this one, the two of them. So let me comment this one so that you do not delete it. You do not delete it in a mistake. So this one is we are including the external JavaScript. We're including the external JavaScript. So here I'm going to have a simple form. Actually, I really do not, because JavaScript is so cool such that you do not have to include everything in a form, in the form tag. So but we could still have it. So I'm going to remove the action. I really do not need to have the action. And then I'm going to give it a function on submit. I'm going to give it a function. I'm going to give it on submit. I'm going to give it a function called submit form details. So this one is this one now is real world, so you can try and catch this one. This one is maybe you did not give attention to the other part, but this one is very important, so you might wanna try to listen to this one. So we're going to have the first one, input field, and this one is going to be of type text, and then you're going to give it an ID of username. No, you don't have to write the whole name, you could just write uname, and then we could give it a placeholder. Okay, let's just leave it at that. So the other one is going to be password, and we are going to give it an ID of password. Then you're going to have another one that is login, so this one goes to be submit, and then we could give it a value. We could give it an ID of submit to, doesn't matter. Then we could give it a value. Value is what you're going to see on that button, because this kind of an input is a button, this kind of an input is a button. So value, we could give it login. Save your work. Let's go to the browser and see browser. Whoa man, I'm forgetting. So that's a simple form that we are having. So what I'm going to do, we're going to style this up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new CSS. I'm going to create a new CSS file. So remember how we are doing it. So I'm going to create, I'm not going to create it here, I'm going to create it outside the folder. So I'm going to create one called style.css. Now in the beginning of this lesson, you remember I told you that some things have where they are really put, like JavaScript. It's not a bad idea to put it at the top, but it is sometimes loses the what is the intention or the dependencies. Sometimes they may miss some of what they need. So what we do, the best thing is to put JavaScript immediately after the document. But here how we load CSS is that we get all the styles at the top. Okay, we put all the styles at the top so the styles can be applied to the document object. So here we're going to have to include the CSS, and remember how we are doing it. We were giving it a link, and then we are giving it a what? We are giving it a path, maybe the absolute or the relative path. So what we're going to have here, we're going to have the link. It's a CSS link, and then it's going to be style. Style.css. So in the style.css, what I'm going to do, let me open it in another tab so that we can see what we are doing. Now we can have 3 files. So as you can see, we have an empty index.js and we have an empty. So the first thing that I want us to do is to style up our form. So I'm going to give us some to give the form some color. I'm going to style the input field. So how I'm going to do it, I'm going to give the form an ID equals. So I hope by now you understand how CSS work. You can either use IDs or class names, or you can even use tag names or types to access document objects. So here I'm going to use login form. I'm going to call it just login form, and then here I'm going to use a hash login form, and then I'm going to give it a width. I'm going to give it a width of 400 px. I'm going to give it a height of outer. Save your work and refresh the whole thing. And then we could also try maybe 400 is a bit big, right? So we could try 200 would be great. Yeah, something like that. And then we could position it. We could say margin. We could give it a margin left. of 30%. We give it a margin left of 30%, and then 30% is a bit small. We could give it a 40%. 40% is great. Now we have a margin of, and then we could give it a margin top of, we could give it a margin top of 10%. And you know, when you're talking about height, the percentage is a bit, it takes much more space than you would really expect. That's what I mean. So 5% would be great. 5% would be great. Now I hope you're still following. So now let us, now because it now looks more beautiful, now let us add some style to the input field. So here you can because we do not have to access every input field, we will just reference there. From how do you do that? You just use the hash. We're just going to access the input fields in the login form. So you're going to access the ones that are in this login form. So how you do it, you use login form, and then space, then you're going to say input, and then we can give it a padding of 5px, yeah, so that yeah, you see now it's a bit bigger. That's good. Then you can have a border radius. of about 5px would be great. Yeah, something like that. And then we can have a border of okay, now let us do that for every single object. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to add some margin. You can have a margin of 5px. Refresh your work and let's see how it looks like. Now it looks like a great login form. Now let us have some text. We could have a legend. So how do you do that? We could put this one in a what? We could put this one in a field set. So field set. Then you could have the same, and then inside the field set we could have legend login. something like that. Now it looks much better, but also we could come and change that. So we can change that using the CSS. So hash login, we're still accessing whatever is inside that form. So hash login form, and then you're going to use, we only have one legend and field set. We could have field set, we could have the field set. So we can have the field set have a border of 1px solid, and then we could have the color of sky blue or cornflower blue, and then you can have the border radius could have the border radius of 10px, and then a box shadow of 5px, yeah, yeah, something like that. Looks cool, right? Yeah. So now something else I want us to give some styling to is the, as you can see, the button. Let us give it some cool style. So we could use hash login. We could use hash login form. Then we could use input type. Okay, here you can use the type. So you can say input, then you can use the square brackets where type is equals to submit. And then you can give it a background color of maybe cornflower blue. Then you can have a color, of white. We can have a color of white. Then we can have a border. We can have border. Let us give it a border of 2px solid cornflower blue. Let's change this. Instead of having this background color, we could have just background transparent. Background, let it be transparent. And then color, let it be cornflower blue, so that we match everything. Yeah, something like that. And now we can make the button a bit bigger. So we could have width. We could give it 40%, and it's good to take the 40% of the total width of the form. Okay, yeah, something like that. And then let us give it a margin of 40% to okay, 40. So the best thing would be what? It would be 30%. Yeah, do the calculations very fast. You'll know why, because it's 100%, right? So we have 30 at the left, 30 at the right, and then at the center we have the what? We have the button. Okay, yeah, something like that, you see. But now, yeah, it's at the center. But what we need to do is that we need to give it a margin a margin left, not just margin left. We need to give it a margin left of that. So now our form looks cool, right? Yeah, you gotta admit it's great. Now let us change this font. Let us change that font. So font family, we could say I like Cobel, and then we could say have color. Let us have cornflower blue. Let us have a theme, some kind of a theme. Okay, yeah, great. Now looks something wonderful, right? Now the form fields don't look that great, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to remove the border. So how do we do that? We use the hash login form, and then we're going to say input, then we're going to get where the type is. No, you do not put, it's not a string, it's a type, to where the type is text, and then we are going to have the same. So we're going to have the same, so I'm going to copy the whole of this. I do not have to write the stars twice, and then I'm going to, but this time around we are checking for the type password, and then we are going to have the what, border is going to be 1px solid, 1px solid, and then we can give it a color. We could give it a dark gray, and then we could have yeah, let's say that's it for now. Yeah, it looks better. Yeah, so for now we really do not know what we are supposed to put here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add some placeholders so that the user can know what they're supposed to put in that field. So how do you do that? You just come here in the HTML and add a placeholder like this one is going to be username. So the whatever you write between these speech marks, that's what is going to be seen on the browser. This one is going to be placeholder, it's going to be password, and then that's enough. We do not need another placeholder. What happens when you start typing in a placeholder? The placeholder disappears. So let us continue from there by now trying to access the objects in this document. Okay, we are going to access the username, the password, and then we can validate them. Okay, yeah. Okay, now what we are going to have here is that we are going to look at this form, and then we need to consider some few things. I mean the chronology of things here. When do you validate the data, or when do you need to get a user to, when do you need to validate whatever the user has entered in the field? No, maybe I'm going ahead of myself, but what I'm trying to say is, when we are using document object model, like this one is in a form, so here I'm considering the specific part or the specific situation where a user is logging in. So what we are going to do here, we are going to do some front-end validation, whereby we are going to see if the username is entered, if it's filled, then we are going to check if the password is filled, and then if that is filled, then we can give them a success message. If that's not right, then we can give them an error message. We can even try to use some static data and see if they can be able to log in using the correct data. So what we're going to do here, we are going to first wait for the login event. So here we're going to talk about an event. We're going to talk about events here. So maybe I'm going to start a new crash course on JavaScript events, and then for beginners, so don't worry, it's not gonna be a very big deal. So what I'm going to do, it's gonna be for you, for beginner, even for anybody who just wants to do a recap on JavaScript, is gonna be okay. So what I'm saying, I'm trying to say that in this one we're going to create a method in which we can validate, then we can process the data, and if the data is correct, we can give a successful login. Otherwise, we can give some errors, display the errors to the user. Remember what we've been doing? Actually, we said that the last thing that we're going to have is an application that can be used for login. So this is it, man. So if you're not following, this is it. So you better get started right now. Okay, but I know you're following. I know that you're following. So now, how do we access the username? How do we access the password? So we are going to do something here. Now when this button is clicked, you see, when that button is clicked, we're having an error, right? So I want you to notice very fast, it is saying submit details is not defined. So what we are going to do here, we are going to prevent the default of the submit. So here we can create we can add an action. Let us come back to this one, and then the action is just going to be index.html, or we could remove that, and remove this on submit action here, so that we remove we put that action in the what, in the button. So so that when the button is clicked, when the button is clicked, then everything can be processed. So refresh your page, click login. Now we need to change this one. This event should be on click. That event should be on click. Save your work, refresh, then click. Now as you can see, it is giving us an error. Why? Because in this form we're using the type submit. So we're using the type submit. So we could just remove this one, give it a type of button. No, should be button. Save your work, refresh. Then so when you click that, now you have the what, now you have that. So what we're going to do, because as you can see it has changed, so you can go to this part, to the CSS part, then instead of submit you can say button. Save your work, refresh, and then everything's back to where it was. So when I click that, as you can see on the console, we have this error that is on index.html number 17, that submit form details is not defined. So now let us go and do some JavaScript scripting. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wait for this button to be clicked again. When this page loads and then the user clicks this button, we are either expecting the user has filled the form field. So if the user has filled the form fields, we are going to take that data and then we are going to validate it. So how we do that, we are going to go to the JavaScript, and then we are going to get the input field. So how do you get the value of the input fields? Now we are going to go back to how we were doing it. Remember, we were creating a variable, then making the value of that variable to be an object, a HTML object. So this is how we are going to say, we are going to how we're going to put here. So variable username, we're going to give it a document dot get element by id, which is going to be the text here. So again here, so here you see this one, this one. So we are going to say this id, we are going to copy it here. No, it's going to be this id, the same id. We're going to give uname, and then we just access the object. So to get the value of the object, we just say dot value. So we can save that, refresh, and then okay, now no, sorry, I missed something here. The error that you're having is that we have not created that form. So what we are going to do, we are going to create that form. So how do you do that? Now here we get into the functions part. We do what? We get into the functions. So here we're going to create a new function called submit form details. So how do you create a function in JavaScript? This is how you create a function. Creating a function. So what you're going to do is that you're going to introduce it with a function keyword. So how you do that is you write the word function, then you're going to name your function. Like ours is submit form details. No, that one is not inbuilt, so you're just going to create yours. You can create yours however you like it. So now when this button is clicked, we need to use this function to get the data. So what we're going to do, we are going to use this method, and then we can get the values of the form field. So like right now we can alert. You remember alert, how to alert? So we can alert there. We can have an alert of the username. So when the user puts some value in the username field, then he clicks the button, or she clicks the button, then we can have an alert telling us the name of the user. So let us refresh our page. So we do not have anything because we did not put anything in the username field. But what do you write? Something like cosmic. Now you see we have the word, we have the cosmic. So that is how we access the input field. So let us do the same for the password field. So password is equals to gi. So okay, gi is a method, is a shortcut in the in the VS Studio Code, where you can just use like very short phrases to get some methods, like to get the document with get element by id, you can use gi. To get a class name, you can use gc. Okay, so this one we're going to get the id of the password field. The id of the password field is what? It is this one, it is the ps word. So we're going to use the ps word, and then we're going to get the what? The value. We're going to get the value. Now there's something else that we need to do. Let me indent this one so that the code might look a bit cleaner. Now something else that we might do, we can now check if the username has entered something. So let us check if the fields are empty or not. So here, now remember the conditionals. Here is where we are going to apply the conditionals. So if username, and now I'm going to introduce something else called operators. Operators is they are actually true or false and or. So here they're going to return the true or false thing. Okay, so they're going to return a boolean. So if username is empty, so we are going to check if it's empty, or the password is empty. So how do I get to write or? You do not write the word or, you use the two pipes, the pipe symbol, password equals empty. So if the two of them are empty, we could add some style to the field. So we can just come and say, and so that we can access the DOM or the object of this field, we could remove the value from here and put it here, dot value, and then we put it dot value, so that we can remove this one. The reason I'm doing this is that I want to have a shorter way of accessing the object. So we could say username dot style dot border color. We could give it a what? We could give it a red, and then we could also have the password. So this one is going to be what? Password. Save your work, then refresh, then so if they're empty, you're going to have this. So the username field is going to be highlighted in red, else you can remove them. So what about we could also try and check one by one. Okay, we could also try and check by one by one. So here we can use another part of the conditional. So here we can write else if we can have this. Instead of writing the pipe symbol, you could also use that one, but that would make your code much longer. So now instead of having the two of them, you can have just one. You can just have one of them, put it there, refresh. Now it's going to check at them each one at a time. So when we click right now, it's going to give us the first field. So if it is empty, it is going to, but if it's not, it is going to give us an error. But if it's not empty, it's going to, now the second one comes into picture. So if both of them are not empty, or we could remove this else, so, and then we can now check if both of them are not empty. We can get a what? We can get to remove the error. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to add the exclamation mark. That means what? That means so here it's going to be dark gray, back to what we had, dark gray. That is if the input fields are not empty. So right now when we click, we have that, but when I click, you see, yeah, when I do that again, now it is working. So that is the front end of validation. So here we're using a function to access or to wait for the event to happen. So when the event happens, then we access the fields. We're waiting for the click event. Actually, we access the fields and see if they are filled. If they are not filled, we give some highlight. Also, we could add some text here. So we could add some text here by creating an empty paragraph and giving it an ID. So we could have something like we could have a paragraph and give it like an ID of feedback. So here, when that happens, we can have if any of this happens, we can just first access the so var feedback is equals to gi. Remember the gi thing. So here we could have feedback, and then we can come and say from on every field we could have feedback.innerHTML, we could say incomplete form fields. So we could put this one in a bracket so that we can illustrate that it could be one or several form fields. Copy this one. I'm going to put it even here. Save your work, and then here we could have the same, but this time round we could say we could have something like the form field, the form fields are not empty. The form fields, we could just remove the word in and have complete form fields. Save your work, refresh the page, and let's see what's happening. Now you see we have incomplete form fields. When you it gives still now we have a problem because it is still giving us a what. When this happens, we shouldn't put it there. We should give it a conditional on its own. So we have incomplete. We still have incomplete form fields. Now when everything is okay, now we should be able to remove that. So so now here we can try and put this one together. We can put them together. We can piece them together. That's what they say. So and then we can have this one. We can have the two of them, and then we can have now this one say something else. We could have it say complete. We could have it say complete form fields. Refresh the thing. Incomplete. Oh, now we're having a problem. The reason we're having a problem is that we're waiting for. So the best thing, instead of using or, we could use and that operator is the and operator. So now we have incomplete form fields. We still have incomplete form fields. Now we have complete form fields. It looks like a cool form, right? Yeah. Now that is accessing the what? That is accessing the objects of the document. Now what I'm going to do, remember how we were doing it? The other part that we say that we were gonna do is if the login was correct. Now we could try and get some static variables, and if the login was correct, we could maybe say tell something like hooray, you just successfully got logged in. Okay, but now for now, this is what I want us to do. First, I want us to change the font family. I want us to change the font family. And let us go back to the history. I just closed that page. Yeah, So what you're going to do, you see this, I want us to change that font, not font family, the font color. So if any of these, so I'm going to do something that is called ubiquitous typing. So here I'm going to do the same thing here. So feedback, you can see I'm typing on multiple lines, or it's also called multi-cursor typing. So style is equal dot now what style are we going to access? We could access the color, so that we have the color is equals to red, the color is equals to red, so that you see now you have something better. It's now complete form fields. Now to change that, now we can have this one, we can copy the same and have it spit out green color. Yeah, green like slime. You have to check if they are filled, and then you can have a green, and then you can see it's fast. Actually, look at this. When I click this button, you don't have to see a reload here, as opposed to other languages like JavaScript. Not JavaScript, sorry, like PHP, where you load the whole page during validation. You do not have to do that with JavaScript. That's why JavaScript is so cool. It lets you do everything in the browser without having to load every single dependency. Okay, it just loads what is required. Okay, yeah, that's something for another course, for another tutorial. But for now, I want you to notice that when I click here, everything is processed without the page having to load again. Okay, it is not loading the whole page, it's just processing what it's given. So we can have something, and then you can have complete form field. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set some variables here. We are going to set something like variable username, variable login, uname is equals to, like, my name is Cosmic. It's going to be here, it's going to be Cosmic, and then you can have the variable login password is going to be mine is it's gonna be a dummy 1 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So to get this and make sure that we do not capture the white space, what we do is we trim the input. So if the variables are not empty, now here we can give a successful login message. We can give a successful login message. So how we are going to do it, we are going to say if, now here is this one is called nesting, when you have a conditional inside another conditional, but not only in this one, you could also nest in Java and other languages. You could nest even something like loops. You could nest. Yeah, this is how good they are. So here we're going to nest. We're going to check if the username, now we're going to trim it, username.value dot trim, this method that removes the white space. Dot trim is equals to, we're going to use login uname and password login, no, we're going to say password dot value dot trim is equals to login password. Then we can alert our login was successful, and redirecting to your profile page. Else, if that was not the thing, you could say else you could alert incorrect login details. Please try again, or please try again now. Register or register. Save your work, and then let us go and see if we get something cool. So I'm just going to choose to put something incorrect details. So we could also, so I could also put something here. I could also put the word cosmic, and then 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6. Was it 6 or 7? I don't remember. I might say up to 9. It's 1 through 9. 1 through 9. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So I can say login was successful. Login redirecting to. So instead of having to alert the whole of this thing, we could just put it here. So how do we do that? We could now inject that one into the what? We could inject that one into. So what we are going to do, we are going to delete that, put a semicolon, delete that, put a semicolon, then we're going to remove this like that. Again, I'm using multi-cursor typing, so here we could have feedback dot inner HTML. It's going to be what? It's going to be that. We refresh, incomplete, then we fill the whole thing. Incorrect login details, please try again or register. But if I write cosmic, and then 1 through 9, then you have login was successful, redirecting to your profile page. So how is it, guys? So here we checked on several things. As you remember, we looked at the DOM manipulation. That's what we've been doing, but then we've been doing it on a real life project. Then we looked at the functions. Here we created a very big function. Let me enlarge this tab for you. So this is the function. You can see the whole of this. That is a function. And then inside the function, we had what we did in the part 1 of this lesson, where we created conditionals. So the next part that we are going to do is that we are going to create some few objects. So wait for part 3 of this lesson, so that we could create an object. And what I'll require, I'll just request, just go to my YouTube channel, like, then you can subscribe. Okay, so what I want you to do right now, I want you to go back to your project. If you've been doing it if you've been coding as a code, or if you prefer to code later, I would prefer if you go back to your work, see if you can be able to do something like this, create something cool like this. Then if you can be able to add the functionality, the login, the validation part, where you can have the events, where you wait for the button to be clicked, then check if the input fields are complete. If they are complete, then you can validate the data entered, if the data was correct. Now you see we have incorrect login details. Now because you still see that we still have a problem, because when you're telling somebody that their login details were correct, you really do not give them a green color. The best thing would be to give it some red color. So I will want you to do that. So give it some green color, and then we are going to see how we can do it in the next lesson. And then we're also going to check if we have the correct username and email. And then not username and email, but the username and password, how it's also going to work. So instead of having the login successful being green and then the other one being green, we should only have this being green. And also we could also try now to go to a new page. So we're also going to do that in JavaScript. So stay put, or wait for the next video. Just click on like and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next part of this tutorial.